just added a guy, Will. I guess let's start with that. I mean, only signee, technically a true signee you brought in this cycle. What did you guys like about him to bring him in late?
He's a unique situation in that he was going to Washington. Obviously college football's been turned on its head since Coach Saban left and all the after effects, and so was back on the market. Great job by Terrence Knighton. Great job by Tony White. Terrence had a relationship with Keona and his family. They were interested. They came to visit. Had a great visit. Even Thursday night, I thought he wasn't coming. I thought he was going to go somewhere else. But Tony and Terrence really did a great job down the stretch, and he's exactly the type of person we're looking for. On the football field, he's big, strong, athletic, physical. He's going to be a huge man with great athleticism. Off the field, great family, great character. He's going to be a great fit for our guys. So it was great to get him today. That's why we moved the press conference till to now, because he was going to announce at 2:30. So I hate messing with your guys' schedules, but that's why. So
with this walk-on class, there's several guys who had scholarship offers elsewhere. What was kind of the message about what a walk-on opportunity here would mean for them?
I was a walk-on, and Sat was a walk-on, and Corey Campbell was a walk-on. And I love non-scholarship players because you know that they're playing because they love the game. Or in this case, many times they're playing because they love the University of Nebraska. And so we were very intentional about the way that we approached the walk-on class. We wanted to do a great job with those guys because I think there's at least three or four guys that'll, and I'm not saying any specific three, I think just going through the breadth of this, I think there's three or four guys that'll start for us someday in this walk-on class. I mean, it's a bold statement maybe, but I really believe it. And so I take it unbelievably seriously. I've had some great walk-ons in my time, and no place is known for having great walk-ons better than the University of Nebraska. So we're trying to do a great job with it. So I think that, those guys, some of those guys had opportunities. I think when they go out and look at places, wonderful universities, but the chance to play here, the chance to play in this stadium, the chance to play in front of our fan base, the chance to enjoy their college journey with their family wins out. Because I was a walk-on, I never say, hey, you should pass up a scholarship and come here. I don't ever tell someone to do that. I simply present, if you do come here, this is what it'll be like. And I do believe that the way that we practice and the way that we do things gives everyone an opportunity to show what they can do. But really, this was a decision made by them, and in many cases, it's because they really wanted to play here.
With Wilhite and a couple of those guys that you added, Ochoa and Prescott, what does that do for your pass rushing spot? And did you identify that as something that you wanted to upgrade as you moved into the new year?
I think that I don't pay a lot of attention to, a lot of coaches look at hey, we need 4 of these, we need 3 of these. I've never thought that way. I always look for people I think can make a difference, and I always look for big people. I'm always looking for O linemen and D linemen, and I don't care how many we have. If we have too many, then it'll sort itself out. So Keona, I just think when you're that big and that athletic, it's a no-brainer. Jordan, Marcus and Keith Williams. Keith has done a great job for us in personnel. They had been talking with Jordan. I went out recruiting with Sat. He had me up at 5 o'clock going out to see a workout. Had a chance to meet Jordan, talk to him, and this is a guy that had Pac-12 offers. He had Mountain West offers. He has a love for Nebraska and wants to come here and play at this level. And so, unbelievable opportunity. But to your point, I think we have a lot of great pass rushers coming back. But we're always, if you can rush the passer or you can take the ball away, we're always going to take a shot on you. So I'm always looking for guys in those positions.
What stood out about Kamir Prescott and how that one came together?
Yeah, I mean, Kamir's someone we targeted early. We visited him, early on. Tremendous person, first of all. Loves the game, tough, physical, can run. We think he'll be a ball hawk. Was headed to another school. And for one reason or another, that didn't work out. And he was on the market. Coop stayed in touch with him. And, I think he has a lot of confidence and trust in us as people that we're going to do what we say we're going to do. And I think we added a really good player in that one.
How many times in the last couple months did instances come up where maybe you guys thought you would be done and somebody came available and you just, you adjust and you make room?
Really, in the second cycle, really it was really just Keona, in terms of the scholarship position. I have people stop me on the street and they're like, "Coach, how are we going to do this? Scholarship wise?" It'll happen. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I think my job's to put as much, great people and great talent in the locker room as possible, and get a bunch of guys whose mindset is that they love to compete, not afraid of competition. And it's really hard to compete and be your best if you don't have other great players around you. So anytime I see a great player, we're going to approach it, and they come in all shapes and sizes: walk-ons, transfers, scholarship players, 5-star, no star. It's all about what you do in the future. And so I've been pleased. I've been pleased with the staff. I've been really pleased with our recruiting staff. Our personnel department, I think, has done a great job of identifying players and guys who are good fits for us.
Hey, Coach, this is the first January you guys could actually visit with the juniors. How much is that going to speed things up? Just even when you're on the road, to be able to speak with kids and not have a true in-home, but almost have one when you're at their school and spend time with them.
Yeah, I think it's great because we were able to go into schools, sit down with players, and the people that matter to them, and visit, and talk, and really accelerate the process. At the end of the day, in this job, I'm held accountable not just for the performance of my players on the field. I'm also held accountable for who they are as people. I'm sometimes held accountable. When I say coaches are held accountable for their players off the field, yet we have all these rules saying we can't ever meet with them. So you want me to be responsible for this person's character, but I can't meet them. And so we finally made a step towards sanity and saying we could at least meet with people. And I thought it was great. First of all, I thought our presence on the road was really well received, and I think we do a good job of that. We're not flashy. We're not a flashy outfit. We don't show up in designer cars or whatever, but we are good at talking about what we believe in and talking about our vision for young people and listening to them. And so I think that this is a real step forward for programs like us that operate that way. And it was great. You can probably tell I'm tired because we've done we work Saturday, Sunday. We worked around the clock all the way up to this. Really grateful for the staff. Really grateful for the staff's spouses and families and kids because when we're a recruit and you come visit here, Julie Rhule's going to be around. Vivian Leone are going to be there. You're going to be around our families, and so it's kind of an all hands on deck thing from everyone in our organization. But I think the new rule was great for us. It's really good for an organization like us, and I think we did a good job in January for next year's class.
I know it's early, but how have you felt about how the early enrollees have adapted being on campus the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, I haven't been around them. Honestly, I haven't been around them. I get all good reports. They seem like they're doing well. I see them a little bit on the weekends, but I'm really excited. I was at the morning workout this past Friday morning. I was there Monday and Tuesday. I'm just really excited to be back in the building and around the guys. I did not get into college football and college coaching to be a great recruiter. I got in it to coach the guys day by day. Recruiting is something you have to do to get the right guys there. From the outside looking in, I think if you talk to our strength staff, I think if you talk to our weight room, our nutrition staff, our training room, academic staff, I think this is a really good group. They do things right. They love to compete. They're really athletic. But I'm anxious for them to get into kind of the daily grind. Get into some mat drills, get into some spring football, and really start to figure out how they can contribute and how we can help them be the best they can be.
In the couple of weeks that Glenn Thomas has been here, what's been his assessment of how you guys played last year? I'm sure you've talked to him a little bit about that. What do you like about him as a coach and what he's already added to you?
Well, I worked with Glenn. Glenn was a difference maker for me at Temple. Sat was the OC. Really wanted to get away from Sat coaching the quarterbacks and being the OC, and because we're not an air raid offense, right? So intimate knowledge and experience in the run game and the play action game is really important for us, and so we hired Glenn there. And P.J. Walker took off under his tutelage, and then he called it for me the last year. And then we went to Baylor and did a great job with the freshman and Charlie Brewer, and then had a chance to go call him himself, and he did that. So I just trust him. You know what I mean? I know that the quarterback's going to be well coached. I know I don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about those things. His assessment so far, we'll start the cut-up process and all of that thus far. This was in the works for many weeks before it happened. I just was obviously going to be respectful of the Steelers and Coach Tomlin, who I look up to. So we were, I had talked to him, and he had watched us, and I asked him for some of his opinions on, some of our guys, some of the portal guys. Hey, what do you think of this guy? High school players. So in terms of a global, deal, I think we all know we have to play better in a lot of areas on offense. The specific reasons for why, probably over the next couple of weeks as we get into it and we really sit down and watch it as a staff, we'll have much better answers in terms of, hey, what can we do better here? What can we do better there? As of right now, it's been all kind of anecdotal. Hey, I see you guys changed the split on this. Hey, why are we doing this now? So, but he's an excellent coach, great family. His two sons are excellent golfers. They're bring a lot to the country club circuit here in Nebraska. So watch out. And but most importantly, I know the quarterback's going to be really well coached.
Is he? Is it too early to say, who calls the plays this year?
I've said that to you guys from the beginning. I told you guys from the beginning Sat was going to be the OC. Sat is the offensive coordinator. Glenn is coming in as the co-offensive coordinator, work with him. Sat's going to call the plays. Glenn's going to be intimately involved in the play design and all that. But, I said it respectfully. It maybe came a little rude tone, but, I just want to make sure you guys always know if I tell you something, I mean it. I told you guys on this podium he was going to be the OC. I don't even consider Sat the co-OC. That's weird. Some people have looked at me like I'm nuts. Sat's the OC. He's the co-OC. So he's the collaborative OC, if that's a better term for it. I don't know. But he's going to design, along with Garrett, he's going to design all kinds of things on offense. It worked for us once before. We won a ton of games doing it. But, Sat's going to stand up in front of the room and run the room. And as you guys know, when I first got here, I really, really, really like it especially when you have a guy like Fedoni and Borkacher and Linden. We have some really talented tight ends. I love when my play caller is over there because he understands more about the run game, and, we get the ball involved to more people. I want to get the tight ends involved. So it's just kind of the way I'm wired. I like it. I like when there's someone in there talking to the quarterbacks all the time, that the voice never changes. It's consistent. I think sometimes as the OC in our style of offense, if I was air raid, it'd be different. They kind of get pulled in other directions. So but that's the way it's going to be. Sat's the OC, and that's never been a question in my mind. Glenn's right there to support him every step of the way. And, I did this once before, and, play calling is, it's not really what people think it is on TV. Sometimes, he's in there hey, even this year, G did a great job. Hey, what's our next 3rd and 3? Hey, I like this. Let's get to this. So, we have a good staff that works really well together. Donnie does such a great job in developing the run game. And so without the title of run game coordinator, he basically kind of does that. So, but at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Sat will be in charge. And if I ever have a suggestion, I'll throw it in there. But for the most part, I just love having Glenn there because I know that's that room. I trust those guys. I trust the guys on defense. Ed does a great job on special teams, and I can just hopefully try to bring it all together.
As far as the work that Glenn did specifically with the young quarterbacks, with PJ and Rhule, what did you see there that can translate into what you hope the way that you hope he can impact Dylan and Danny?
Yeah, well, I think, my goal has always been quarterback recruits now are always looking for the right situation. And 5 years ago, that made a ton of sense, right? You're looking at a school, you're like, well, Sipple's about to graduate, so they only have 2 quarterbacks. Well, what does that mean anymore, right? They lose all their quarterbacks. They bring in 4 portal guys. So looking for the right situation is very rarely the truth, right? You might go there and all of a sudden the coach might leave, and all of a sudden it's, it's a whole different set of circumstances. So I think quarterbacks should go somewhere, Mitch, where they are taught how to play quarterback from the ground up. And that's what I like about Glenn. The way he teaches the quarterbacks, they could be in the air raid, they could be in the run and shoot, they could be in a pro style offense. He's still going to teach them, and he's going to scaffold that teaching, and just keep kind of taking them to that next proximal state where they're learning just what they need to learn. He's not going to dump it all on top of them. He's not going to keep it too simple. He's going to start with the fundamentals and just kind of keep building it as they go. So, when he hires Matt Ryan, should be when he coaches Matt Ryan. He's working up here, right? When he takes over for PJ Walker, he's kind of working down here. But then eventually PJ got to that point, or to a point as a pro. So that's what I like about what he'll do for those 2 young players. He'll meet them where they are, but he'll have high standards for them. He'll be demanding of them. He has a great way. And then, Heinrich's a young player. He's been on the team for a while, but he hasn't played a ton. And so to me, he can yet again meet Heinrich where he is. The goal is to get them all to where they're all conference caliber players in the Big Ten, and then circumstances will dictate who starts. But history has shown, like, if you kind of just stick around somewhere for a while and you're a good player, eventually you get your shot. And eventually, when you get your shot, you better play well. So I think he'll help both those guys play really well.
That tight end room, you've really transformed it with some of the additions and Thomas getting older. What do you think Sat brings to that as a position coach?
Yeah, so when Sat coached, Sat's he played receiver in college, so his knowledge of route running, he was a receiver coach when I first met him. His knowledge of route running, yet still having that same tough mindset, I think is exactly what you need. I personally believe tight end is one of the harder positions from a cognitive standpoint to play in football. You have to understand all the nuances of the run game, all the run game calls on the run game. Sometimes you're involved in the protections. And, oh, by the way, you also have to run routes. And if you have a really good tight end, like Fedoni and Nate and those guys, you don't want to play in just one spot. So now you have to go out and be number one. So I think it's someone who can teach route running, teach blocking, but also teach all the concepts well enough that they can adjust. He was my tight end coach at Baylor. He had a young player in Ben Sims who he was pushing. And now, Ben's catching touchdowns in the NFL. So I think Sat naturally has that, and his personality is he's an aggressive person, and you can't really always be aggressive coaching the quarterbacks. You have to kind of bring them along. So I'm excited about it. I think he'll do a really nice job in that room. We'll see what the rules are with analysts moving forward. If analysts allowed to coach or not. If so, someone can help them. As time constraints, always pull the coordinator away. But I just don't want anyone pulled away from the quarterbacks. I want that person in there full time with those guys because they're going to need it as young players as they try to get ready.
Do you feel like you have enough scholarship quarterbacks, just 3?
Yeah, it's weird. I've always had 3. I've never really had 4 very many times. I'd love to have 4. Let me just start there. But I also understand this. If last spring we had 6 and we had 4 healthy, it's really hard to get the guys the reps that they need. So here's what I know: Heinrich needs reps to be the starting quarterback and win for us. Danny Kalen needs reps to be the starting quarterback and win for us. Dylan needs reps to be the starting quarterback and win for us. And they all deserve the right to go through that process. So this spring, I think having 3 scholarship quarterbacks is ideal in that those guys can get a ton of reps, right? They're not sharing. They're not getting 3 reps in a rack and giving it to somebody else. They need reps and they need to practice. Going into the season, I would love to have a 4th person. But that's kind of the state of college football now, right? Full disclosure, we understand that if someone gets hurt or something happens, I'm sure there'll be guys in the portal in May. If we have a scholarship spot, we can always do that. But we're kind of going all in on these guys. And along the way, a lot of people ask me, why didn't you get a 1-year player? And maybe it'll happen for somebody else. I just don't know how we can win a championship starting a 1-year player every year. So if it's Heinrich, then great. He's got a couple years left. If it's one of these young guys, I'd rather them go out there if they're ready to play. And as a team matures, they mature, and eventually we have a championship caliber team. But bringing a guy in for 1 year for me is not ideal. We'll do it when we have to do it, but it's just not ideal. So we have 2 young players. We have another guy that's in Heinrich that's won at a high level. I'm anxious to watch them battle it out in the spring.
In winter conditioning, is there anything in particular you look for from the quarterback position from those guys during this time of year?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think, none of those guys in the locker room care about how highly ranked you were in recruiting, and they certainly don't care about how many touchdowns you threw in high school. They don't care about how well you played last year. They care about what you're doing right now. They're very much in the moment. Jamal Banks got here from Wake Forest. He's transfer, and we do our competitions. He's by far and away dominating our team in terms of his commitment to, winning points and winning his team. I can assure you, no one cares whether he played here last year or not. They know he produces, and we're trying to produce a competitive environment. So every off-season drill, everything is competitive, and so I know that the guys are always watching the quarterbacks. Like, who is going to? We lost 5 games by 3 points or overtime. So we're fighting for every single point. We're 3 points away from being a good team in our brains. So am I going to follow a quarterback that doesn't win all the drills, that's not out there throwing at 6 a.m., that's not there on the weekends? I'm not following that guy. So I think everyone's watching everything right now. And those players, you do the off season so that you can get in better shape. But I want to see who's competitive and who shies away from the competition and who attacks it. And when things get really hard and the mat drills are, kicking your butt or spring ball is hard, that's when I want to find out who's the problem. Because last year we lost. We lose games, and the coaches would get up here like we'd run double under with a corner against Maryland, and it's a pick, and we say, hey, maybe we should have called a better call. Like those days are going to be over. Like every team in the country throws touchdowns on those plays, and our team, we need guys to go get the ball. We need guys to throw the ball. And if you want to see what that looks like, go watch Patrick Mahomes and how many plays are on script for him. He's out there playing ball. And so the off seasons where you in college, it's where you show your teammates, hey, I'm a playmaker. I'm someone to be watched. I'm going to compete at everything, and I'm tough. Then you get to spring ball, and you start another phase. So I think the winter is unbelievably important. And I can tell from the demeanor of those three guys, based upon, I haven't been there to watch, but based upon, like, as I watch the points and I watch the way they're competing, they all know that.
Following that course, how much less do you maybe need to install the culture this winter, because many of the players already know what you're about?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, like a great point. I just was hanging out with Ethan Piper upstairs, talking about his student teaching. I went out and met Ashton Houseman yesterday, just to visit with him. They all understand how hard it was last year because they did not know what to expect, and now everyone knows what to expect. And that's half of life. That's what makes all of us anxious, is the anticipation of what we're afraid of or what we don't know. Right? Once we know, I show up and I know I have to do this tomorrow. I can do it when I don't know, and so we are light years ahead of where we were last year. I think the thing I have to do a really good job of, and I'm trying to do it even right now as I talk, is that everyone cares so much. Like everyone wants to be so excited. Like recruiting doesn't mean anything about next season. It's just about all of our players understanding there's an urgency in this building. When you walk in this building, like you've got to go. And I think we made some real steps last year. I think we fixed some things, but we're still 5-7, and so we're 5-7 until we kick it off against UTEP next year. And so I want our guys understanding the videos that we've put out are great. All that stuff's awesome, but you've got to produce every day and you've got to win. And we can't have an organization with a bunch of guys who think it's okay to show up late and be average. And so that's the culture. The culture is everybody has to do it for us to be successful. And I think we're heading in that direction. It's night and day, significantly better than it was last year.
Banks, can you expand on that Banks picture that you were alluding to?
Yeah, so we have teams. And we compete, and it's really thinking, you do community service, you get this many points for your team. You do something extra. I don't know what it would be. You get points. You go attend another athletic team's event. We want to support the Huskers, supporting Huskers. You get points. You miss something, you get minus points. So what we're always trying to do is we're trying to teach the team that. Talent, when I first did this last year, they all voted for their buddies or for the best players. And what they soon learned, and what I soon saw, was the guys who had been the best players the year before had the least amount of points because they were sometimes the least accountable. Now they've all made massive strides since then. So what we want the guys to understand is hey, as I build this team, as we build a team, or they select their own team, I want guys who are accountable. I want guys who produce. I want guys who do the right thing. And, sometimes you bring guys in from another outside culture. They walk in. It takes them a while to understand the way we do things. Well, Jamal Banks has shown up, and he's the leading point getter. He's far and ahead of everybody else. And there's a bunch of guys doing a great job. And that's what I love. To Sam's point, what was really good last year is now just okay, because last year's unbelievable is now this year's good. Does that make sense? And what Jamal's doing, because coaches, I say, how come he has 0 points? But coach, he has this. This guy's got 72. He's got 72 points. And I wonder why he was all ACC. So what we need to make the turn is some of the guys that decided to come back. The danger is, I could have gotten drafted. I'm going to come back. And they just, they should be at the top. If they really want to win. Don't tell me you want to beat Iowa after we lose to Iowa. Tell me you want to beat Iowa today with your actions. Tell me about Wisconsin. Oh, don't cry in the locker room. Sacrifice right now, if that makes any sense. And so yesterday's, today's price is not yesterday's price, as the players would say. So there's a much higher price to be paid right now. There's a much higher standard, and guys like Banks come in, they set the standard so high that you're like, wow, okay, as coaches, we have to reestablish the standard. And so he's a great addition. I'm excited to have him here.
What you're impressed by with him is mainly the away from athletic competition stuff. It's the things that he's doing outside of football.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. None of this is his workouts or anything like that. Now, obviously, I mean, he was a really highly prolific pass catcher, and the concern sometimes was you never want to bring people in who take away from your culture, take away from the way that you do things and your standard. What he's done is he's come in and he's a part of a group of guys that are raising the standard, and so, but that's all off the field. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen him play, but it's really cool that he comes in and he attacks things like this. And it comes down very simply to competitors compete. Like if you want to compete at everything, then they keep score of it. You're going to try to win, and he's doing that.
What kind of impact do you think Micah Miskula has on the offensive line?
Yeah, Micah's a talented player. Micah's going to have to do all the things I just talked about. Micah's going to have to understand, like the University of Nebraska, like we work, we grind, we pay the price. It's not about what we did. It's about what we're trying to do. So I love Micah. I've known him since he was in high school. But, Micah's got a way to go in terms of understanding the standards that are here.
Coach, you said you were talking about how the players know what to expect, and how much more at ease mentally are you knowing what to expect here at the University of Nebraska as you begin this next year?
I hadn't really thought about it. That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that. My urgency is on high, but it's a different feeling from last year. Like, I went through my first year here, and to your point, like I know what takes a long time to get done. I know it's easy to get done. I know kind of the way things work. I know the way campus works. I know the way, the community wraps itself around us. I know what the league is like. Now the league's changing. So, yeah, I think I feel much more probably ready, much more kind of alert to, hey, this is what it takes. Yeah, I mean, last year was a painful year for me in terms of going 5-7 and kind of the stretch the way it was. But I think it's, in many ways, I think it'll be a good thing. I think, there's not a lot, at least not me, there's not a lot of people walking around here like, hey, we've got to figure it out. We're hungry to get it figured out. So, but I do feel good about, to your point, that I kind of understand everything that's associated. And I'm just grateful a lot of people have, gone out of their way to help me along the way. And so it's a really great place with a lot of great people.
Is there a common thread kind of tying your portal additions together without going one by one through them, but a common thread you saw in those guys about adding them that you like?
Yeah, each one's its own entity, but I think, what we said to ourselves, at least at the receiver position, is we love the young group that we have, I think most college football teams, they want to have 14 scholarship receivers, and we knew we weren't going to get there just by recruiting high school players, just because we had lost some older guys, and the numbers were low, so we wanted to add in some older players that, I don't want to rush any young player to play if they're not ready. If they're ready, great, but having some older players who've played, who, have some seasoning, that makes sense. And it was sort of the same at linebacker, we're kind of, young at some of those positions, so we tried to add in some guys at places where we thought that we were young. Obviously went and got Bly Hill, only played 1 year, so he's just sort of a young player. To me, he and Dante are like incoming recruits. They're here for the next 3 or 4 years. So, but I think our overall philosophy in terms of like the 1 year guys and the guys who don't have a lot of time here was, hey, where do we need some older players, and let's mix them in. What I don't ever want to do is have a player wait 3 years. It's finally his chance to play. He's paid the price. He's ready to play, and then I replace him with somebody just to replace him, because I think that it's not that I'm afraid of competition, but that thwarts the work ethic of getting to that point, So, but if we have a hole, we'll definitely fill it, and I think those guys really filled those holes.
I know you didn't want to add it back just to add it back. What made Dante the guy that you go after?
Yeah, that's it. I think the fact that he's a big back, he's got 3 years left. Unfortunately for him, his year was used up, but the fact that he is a big back, I think, with our style of football and playing in the Big Ten, we don't want every back to look the same. I want a Ramir, next to a Gabe. I want an Emmett next to a Dante. I want that kind of a mix. So, we're really high on Quentin Eyes. We love that running back room, but I think having a big back was a key factor for us.
The Super Bowl is on Sunday, and you talked a little bit about appreciating the San Francisco 49ers offense. They'll be in the Super Bowl. If Nebraska fans were watching that on Sunday, they're thinking, how would Nebraska like to be like San Francisco? What do you appreciate about their offense and what they do, and what would you like to maybe try to incorporate into what you do or already?
Yeah, I think they have a commitment to running the wide zone, outside zone, which we haven't really committed to here. But I'm saying in general, that's kind of the basis of what they do, and they get in unique formations with players who can play multiple positions. Wideouts play running back, running backs play wideout, tight ends play fullback, fullbacks play wideout. They're going to find a way to run the football. They're always going to find a way to run the football and win the game through the physical battle on the ground. And then they're going to take shots with explosive passes and play action passes and then try to win third down. And so I just really, when I watch football, I love their run game. I love the unique mic points. I love the fact that, they don't just come up and run plays. They direct things at the things that they see. College football, as I think we're heading towards having a headset in the quarterback's helmet, it's going to be unique to see if that changes college football. But I just love the positionless player aspect of their offense and the way they utilize their personnel. And we're always going to play to our people, but as we develop, we want to be that type of a team.
Obviously, everybody wants to have a player like Patrick Mahomes. And this is to knock Brock Purdy. He's not quite Mahomes yet. How much do you appreciate the way that they sort of build an offense around his skill set and that he's able to execute? Some people say as a game manager, but other people would say as a guy that really knows what he's doing.
You're saying Brock. Well, I can't. I think Brock Purdy is an amazing player. Because I played against him at Iowa State. When I was in the draft room at Carolina, I brought his name up. I said, hey, guys, he should be on the draft board. I got vetoed on that one. But you can ask Coop. But I think, we used to tell our guys when we were playing Brock Purdy, we're like, do not fall for his pump fake, right? Because Brock would come out, he'd pump fake. And first game, he's 10 yards down the field, pump fakes, our DBs are jumping. I'm like, guys, he's past the line of scrimmage. So a lot of respect for Brock. But I think what's awesome when you think about, Kyle Shanahan, right, is that, he's been to 2 Super Bowls now with 2 different quarterbacks, right? He wins with different quarterbacks. He's, he can take a Trey Lance. He can, the names are going to start to escape me who all he's had, so please forgive me. But, he's been able to play with different players. He can win in Atlanta. He can win in Cleveland. He can win wherever he goes because the basis of what he does is an elite run game that can, when you run outside zone, you can run it into different looks because you're always, running away from the extra defender. And so, he's taken his father's offense. He's adapted it to today. He adapts it to the players that he has. Yet at the same time, he's going to always create explosive passes, and he's going to, have a quarterback who plays well. So I think he's one of the premier coaches in football. And but I do have a lot of respect for Brock as a player because my battles against him and. I think he's just it's just the way he plays the game. He plays the game like he's playing in the backyard, and it's pretty cool to see.
How do you feel about Nash and the guys who are competing in the track this winter?
I'm all for it. I think it's great. I know a lot of, I think it's going to help us in recruiting. A lot of schools will tell a young person like, yeah, you can come here, you can run track, you can do this, you can do that. Here we actually do it. In my time as a head coach, I've had a guy play on the baseball team. I've had a guy play on the basketball team. I've had a guy be on the wrestling team now. And at both stops, not Temple, but Baylor and here, I've had multiple guys in track. And so I think it allows us to recruit guys who are really, really fast. And, what's the harm in it, right? Like, okay, so instead of playing video games at night, they're out there doing A skips and B skips or whatever they do in track. Instead of whatever, taking an extra nap, Nash is out there, riding the bike and practicing his leg defense. I think it's awesome, right? So, and what's amazing with Nash is, man, like he wrestles on Sunday and he's in the indoor with us training on Monday. Jeremiah and those guys, Friday morning, 6 a.m., they're out there, or 6:30, they're out there doing their runs with us, and then they're competing on Saturday. So, Bryce Turner's going to run as well. I think Malachi wants to run here. He's coming off his shoulder. So this is a game of speed, athleticism. The Nash thing, on a personal note, has been fun for me. I love wrestling, but just to watch them, and it's been really cool. I didn't go Saturday to the track meet. I was off doing something, and the sprinters were not happy with me, so they said I only care about the big guys. But I'm really proud of those guys. I'm proud of Jeremiah. I'm proud of Jalen. Proud of Nash. What they're doing is really hard.
Is there any injury updates that are worth sharing? Of anyone you know that'll be out for spring or?
Yeah, we'll have several guys out for spring. And I'm sorry, like Ramir won't do spring, Gabe won't do spring. We have a bunch of guys who had shoulders, like Prince Will and Malachi and those guys. We'll see what they're allowed to do in the spring. I'm never one to rush people back. Isaiah Garcia Castaneda coming off the ACL. He won't do spring obviously, but nothing really new since the end of the season that I can think of. Anything you can think of?
Maverick would be out for spring, right?
No, Maverick. I don't know. Maverick's trending back in. Maverick's not back in. He's fully integrated back into working out. So it's been good to see him getting back out there. So, as they go, they'll just they kind of keep me informed. With those guys, I'm more of like a one day at a time. Because they tell you they'll be ready, and something happens, they're not. And so with the players, I like just I'm not big on time frames for the guys. Because that can sometimes get them depressed. I might just attack today, get through today, attack tomorrow, get through it tomorrow, attack the next day. So I think most of our guys will be back. So.
You have core for spring?
No, yeah, Turner's probably more long term. Yeah, maybe maybe going even into camp in the season. So, all right, thank you guys. Good to see everybody.